Okay. What I've done is I've opened up my database schedule. You'll notice I still have the security warning here. So just to remind you guys, I'm going to click on this, enable it, and I'm good to go. The bar's ready to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to build our first form for all these tables. So let me just show you real quickly what I've got at this point. So let me pull up the relationship. And all I've built to this point really is the doctor-patients. I have the employee table and department table. That was a previous lesson here. Let me click show all so that now I can see these guys who. And let me bring this down here. Whoop. I drug that wrong. And as you can see on that previous lessons, one of the things I did was tie department into my physicians, and I've also tied it into my employees. So all of these tables are, if you will, linked appropriately. The only thing I haven't done is the many to one here, and if you remember, double click on that, and that's okay. Now the reason that works is because I have here's the primary key for the one linking to the foreign key here. Several students have had problems with this. Notice how these has that little key symbol right there. If you don't have a key symbol on one of your databases, it'll make the relationship, but it won't allow you to make that one-to-many relationship unless there's a primary key there. As long as that primary key is there, you can double-click on this little line and do this, and it'll work just fine. All right, so that's just a background on where we are in terms of tables and table designs. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Let's say yes. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with forms. We're going to create our first form. We're actually going to have two of these. We're going to build a form that will allow me to put visits inside my patient table, but the first thing I want to do is build my patient table form. So right here, I've got, notice this is highlighted. I clicked on create, and right here it says form. So here's my patient table. Now you notice it has the names I gave them. Down here it's got the appointments are linked. And I got a basic background here. This is a default form. You're not going to get any credit for doing this because I know all you had to do to create it was just click on button. So what we need to do is we need to change our view to design view. And this is what it looks like. You'll notice that when I click on this, all of these get highlighted. So the very first thing I have to do is take that away because I want to be able to work with the individual items. So over here, they're in this stacked right now, and I want to remove that. So how do I get rid of that? Well, when you first open it up, if I click on any one of these, if you see that right there, see that little square, little symbol right there? So no matter which one of these I grab, it still stays up there in that corner. So I'm just going to click on that. That highlights all of them. And then I'm going to click on remove. And you'll notice that now these are all individual items. Now we're building a form so that people who interact with the data table don't have to interact with the raw data. Well, what's the difference? Okay, well this is the data table. So in here, this is the raw data. And if you fool with the raw data, this is where you really screw things up, like accidentally deleting a field that you really need. However, I can set a form up so that people can't delete fields. They can be able to screw up an individual record, but they can't destroy the integrity of my data set. So what I want to do is organize this a little bit so it looks neater on the screen. Now I've got a relatively small screen here that I'm working with, so you guys are going to be able to see much more detail than I can at any one time. In fact, you might even have part of them here and then part of them over here, and it might be strung out quite a bit. But the important thing is that I want to get these so that instead of just saying patient ID, I mean this is for people who didn't develop the form, didn't develop the data set, to come and look at this and work with it. And so what I did there was I just renamed it. I'm going to move it up here a little bit. And we want to think about, well, how big a field do we actually need? Because this is giving a lot of screen space over to something that really doesn't need that much space. If you'll remember, these patient IDs are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that something that big would hold like patient ID 10,000. I'm not saying that would be a bad thing to have 10,000 patients, but you get the idea. Now over here, we've got patient salutation. Now I can call that a lot of things, but how about if I just call this patient name? And I'm going to lower the size of this a little bit. And we know the patient name is actually a drop down for Dr., Mr., that kind of thing. And you'll notice I've made it, the whole thing, smaller. So why did I do that? Well, look, let me go back. Let me change views. Remember, this flips back and forth. You see there it says doctor? Well, right there they are. And so now this is what somebody who interacts with the data set is going to be hopefully opening forms instead of working with the raw data tables. So that's the whole purpose behind doing this. So making this a name. So I'm going to pull this up here where I can work with it a little bit. And remember, we limited it at the first name is going to be like 25 letters or something like that. And then we've got the patient middle initial. And again, I've got some limited screen size, so I'm always bringing things up here first so I can work with them. Okay. I've got a grid on in the background. Yours will have a grid too. It'll default. So you notice now I have Mr. John B. White here, and it's all aligned and everything like that. But I don't need this bit now. So I can just delete those. Highlight them and hit delete, delete, delete. Occasionally, you will accidentally delete something you need. And I'll do that here in a minute. I want to finish what I'm doing here. So here's my address. And you can actually fiddle with this a little bit. You can like try to organize these so that they line up a little bit. Remember, this was designed so that it would use multiple layers. You remember when we did our data entry before, I did a couple of them where I hit Control-Enter so I could actually put it on different lines. Now, you don't edit anything inside this box. You know, the only time I'm labeling, these are called labels over here. These things right here. These are labels. So I don't edit, type, or do anything over here. And a very common mistake is where a student will accidentally type over this, and then when they let go of it, it says something like unbound. Well, what happened is you just broke the relationship between this field in your form and the data table. So let me go back and review it again. And you'll see how it's all listed there now. And so the goal then is to really organize all this stuff so that we can see almost immediately all this information. So I'm going to pause this for a moment, and I'm going to finish fiddling with this to get it to where I think I want it to be. And when I come back, it's going to magically look like a real form. Okay, so at this point, I've got the whole thing reorganized a little bit. I've left a couple of elements here that I still want to show you, but now you can see you got the patient ID, you got the date of birth right at the top. I even have the doctor right here. I should probably expand that a little bit so you can see the entire name, but I've got some important information right here at the top now, including a home phone, which I put on too just because I wanted to. If you'll think about it, and you can be able to figure out how I did that, but remember that Control-Enter trick. Now, I've got two steps I'm going to do here. I'm going to try to fix this real quickly. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to take this away because down in here, I'm actually going to change this a little bit so I can show all of this patient's appointments in a continuous form. What do I mean by that? Well, if I have multiple pages, this is actually a link to the data table itself. And again, one of the reasons I don't want to do that is because that causes problems in other ways. So we're actually going to create a second form here under visits that I'm then going to drop in here and create what's called a subform. Now the other thing I want to fix is this bit right here. So let me do that right now. So design view. And the very first thing I'm going to come down here and hit that, I'm going to hit delete. I'm just going to break that, make that go away. So up here, though, you'll notice that extends below here. Well, these little headers right here, you can grab these little headers and move them around. Change the size of them, alter how big they are. Grab them over here. You can even grab this, change the size of the total part of your form if you want. I don't grab too much, I want to leave it alone. And then clicking in here, I can say patient entry form. Or patient information form. I like patient information form. Let's put that in there. I like that. Now, I'm not particularly a big fan of that little icon there. So this is one of these areas where you can kind of get creative. So you can go on like Google Images or something like that, because this is for class, not for an actual assignment. So we're going to kind of cheat here a little bit. And I'm going to go Google. And once we're there, we're going to go to Google Images. So this finishes loading. And let's pick something medical. See what we can find, something we can stick in there that looks like a... I kind of like that one. Actually, you know what? There's an even faster way of doing that. So let's look at the image, see the full size image. Right click, copy. First thing I gotta do is make that one go away, highlight it, delete it, Control V. Now it popped it in down here, and that's not where I want it. I want it up here. And so I need to move this around just a moment. And what's cool is this is going to end up being on everything. Now I don't like that size of that. Okay, wait a minute, I just grabbed the wrong. There's a way to do this and have it maintain the aspect ratio. I don't remember what it is. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Hang on a minute, they may have changed something on me. Pausing for a moment. Okay, they did change it on me. I've got some new things here that I'm not used to having. So let me back up. Find your image, right click, save picture as, drop it on your desktop someplace you can find it. That gave me that because I'd already done it. Click on logo, go find it, and pops it right in there for you. And I can do that. By the way, there's no, if you want to put your logo actually down on the form, you can do that, but I think of this as like a header, so it makes a lot of sense to me to put it up there. So at this point, you should have something that looks a lot like this. I was going to stretch out the ULIT there. Let me do that real quick while I'm thinking of it. So you can see the physician. There we go. All right, and that's a pretty basic patient information form, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. It's going to ask me, do I want to save it? And yeah, I do want to do that. And by the way, I always put patient, I always make sure I have the word form there, and I'll show you why. Note over here, it has a different icon, but if it just says patient, form, I like actually having the name tell me that, because there's a couple other menus where you don't always see everything. And it's nice to actually have it in the name of the form. All right, let's go create another one here. Again, InstaForm, just by clicking on that little thing there. I'm going to fix this real quick. Actually, in point of fact, I'm going to make this whole thing go away for this exercise. I just clicked them and deleted them. Moved all that up there. Now I have this detail. What I did was just double-clicked on that little icon right there. And what I'm looking for is right here. See where it says default view? I'm going to change that to continuous. And I want to move these around a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. No, I want to open that up a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to move... This is going to be put inside patient, so I don't need the patient ID at all. Oh yeah, I've got to do that. Arrange, remove. So now these are individual elements and I can move them around. So what I want to do is I want to actually create a label. And since I can't remove that, I want to create something here that says, right in this area, I'm going to put a label that says visit. And that's going to be for my visit. I want to create a label for a doctor. Bring a little bit over. And then I'm going to have a label for time. Because that includes year, I want to make that a little longer. So I'm going to line these along the bottom, so now they're all lined up. Move that a little bit. You can also change the properties of these areas, so you can change, for example, some of the background colors. So since that's blue up there, maybe go with a nice fuchsia there. Maybe change the text color. Make it a nice bright yellow, something of that nature. There's some other toys that you can do or play with here, but let's say I want to make all of these that same color so they stand out. Okay, I want to move them all up to the very top here because space is going to be very critical on this. And I'm going to pick this up, move it up like that, delete all this. Don't need those labels anymore, and I'm going to move that up like that. So there's visit. There's the visit doesn't quite match. Good enough. Doctor doesn't quite match. Good enough. View. Right, now you'll notice when I double-clicked on that, let me change that back to design. When I double-clicked on this, I changed it to continuous instead of single form. And by making it continuous, that's what causes this. See how it's going right down through here? And it's listing right now all the visits in the table because I don't have this tied to any one patient. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this visits form into the patient information table, and then suddenly it'll be limited. Because it'll automatically create it as a subform. So visits patient form. That way I know it goes with patient. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to go back to my design view. I'm going to grab my visits patient form and I'm going to just drop it right there. Now you notice the form itself is really stretched out here. So one of the things I may want to do is change that patient form a little bit. So I'm going to close this. Here, let me show you how it works. See how it's in here? Now right now on this particular record there's no extra patients, but see how it fills in? And it would go off farther down the page. So one of the things I want to change then is how big the form is over here. So let me go back in here and design. I'm going to get rid of this whole thing. Okay. I'm going to close this again. Yeah, that's fine. So let me come back in here and change my design. And this is where I was talking to you before about how big your form actually is. You can see how I've made that now it's smaller. So I'm going to close that. And now I'm going to go back in here. And now when I drop in the patients, visits, see how it's much smaller? Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to make sure I have plenty of room for everything to show here. So I'm going to just give this more space. Now what will happen is as I add more patient visits, this would, for each patient will just keep filling in down through here. So let me see if I can find a patient that's got a couple of visits here, and I'll show you what I mean. See how he has multiple patients visits scheduled, and it goes down. The other cool thing about this is from here I can actually schedule patient visit again. Now this is patient uses Dr. Wells, so let's say he's going to come back and see Mr. Wells, and then it's just a matter of filling in all the stuff here, and I've got a new patient visit. So let's say this time he's coming in at 1:30 p.m. and the date, the tab order on this is incorrect, so that's why it's doing that. So we're going to follow up here 09/5/2010, and then we're good to go. Tab order, how do you change tab order on a field? So let's go to design view. One of the things you can change is the tab order, so hitting tab in a field, how you come through it. If you click on this, so on detail, this is the tab order. You see how this is backwards. So what I've done now is I've got appointment ID, doc ID, appointment time and date, so I'm going to say OK. And now when I actually use the form, from here I go tab, tab, tab. Okay, like on this one, tab, notice it jumps to Mr. because that's the order it was. So let's go back into design. and range, tab order. And this is the tab order. If I hit tab, how fast will it go? Well, let's say that this time on the form, I actually want to go here, and then I want to go to doctor. Stop that. Stop that. I moved everything. Cancel. Tab order. You can also auto order, but the problem with that is you don't always know what it's going to do. So that's kind of an issue. I need doctor. I need patient date of birth. And then I need salutation, name, middle initial, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone, and then okay, that's right. And then back to design, make sure I do this. So now when I hit tab, it goes right through on each of the fields. And I'm good to go. And that pretty much concludes this lesson on patient information forms. Now, to get full credit for it, I'll give you a point for being able to follow this lesson. To really get full credit for it, you got to do the exact same thing for the physician. And you actually want to do it for employee and department as well, if you're going to try to get points for the menu items. And that's what the next lesson will deal with, which is building a menu.